I've always been kind of an anomaly. It's a very pompous and egotistical thing to say, um, but throughout my whole life, I didn't quite fit in, uh, just in any normal conventional crowd. I wasn't the most popular or liked throughout my young formative years, from grades, as early as I can remember, grades 3 until at least 8. And I was very socially awkward. I yelled a lot and made weird noises. I annoyed people for the sake of being the annoying kid because it brought me some kind of validation. I had teachers approaching my parents saying that they were concerned about me and my behavior and that I'm not super well adjusted. And generally, just everyone around me didn't seem to like me. From teachers and bullies and friends. It was a bit different when I was at church. I grew up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I never really resonated with it, but I believed that it had to be right, you know? It all made for a really weird and challenging childhood. A lot of my family's love for me, at least I felt like at the time, was dependent on how well I did in the congregation, in the religion. Because of that, I never really connections were always dependent on something for me for a long time in my life. And it was like that for a long time. Until a very, very special game. Bunch of stuff fell down there, but I'll pick it up later. Until this. Smash Wii U. Disc and everything inside, and the manual. Makes the case really heavy. Smash Wii U kind of gave me one of the first, what felt like authentic social outlets that I ever had. I first was introduced to Smash in Brawl. My neighbor across the street, Kaylin, her family had a Wii, and they would rent games. I play all sorts of random stuff on there, but one day she got Brawl. I was like, this is so confusing and cool. Who are all these characters? And then I saw her pick Sonic, and I was like, I want to be Sonic. Kaylin, let me be Sonic. I was a kid. I was young. I was a needy kid, sorry. And then I saw her pick the black Sonic alternate skin, and I was like, oh, let me be Shadow. Let me be Shadow. And then I picked Ike, and I fell in love with Ike. Eventually, my family got a Wii. My Dadaji, which is my grandmother on my father's side, I probably mispronounced it, she got us a Wii as a gift when she was in the city. My parents wanted to wait until my sister and I were a bit older so we wouldn't fight over it, because, you know, teaching children conflict resolution, it's bad. I don't want to be too critical on them. They did their best. They really did. I really do think they did. But when we got the Wii, and when I would play Smash Bros, my go-to was always Ike. I've never played Radiant Dawn, even to this day, or any of his games, so I'm a massive LARPer, but back in the day I saw this guy with the big sword and red cape and cool ass headband and whatnot, and resonated with that one a lot. I don't know, some part of me kind of felt that. and I just wanted to kind of be like that in some way. So Ike was always my goat. And Smash for Wii U was announced, and it's like, oh, they're adding Bowser Jr., and I can be myself as a Mii Sword. I'm gonna make myself so cool. And with Smash for Wii U, even getting the game kind of taught me responsibility. I don't know how edited this is, so I'm just gonna, I don't know if all of this is gonna stay in, so I'm just gonna spiel it. But I was asking my parents a long time for a Wii U. You know, the Wii was older, it didn't have newer games. You know, I want these newer games that aren't coming out on the Wii. And they're like, no, it's just the Wii 2. You have a console, you're good. And I said, okay, well, what if I save up for it? At this point, I was still getting allowance money. I was in, I don't even know, I guess 5th grade, 4th, 5th grade, maybe 6th, when Wii was announced. And all I would do on YouTube was just search for, like, videos on which characters are going to be in Smash, who's going to be in Smash, who's it going to be, yada yada. It's a whole cool thing. And yeah, so that was that. And I got, I think it was like $5 a week or something, which is admittedly a lot for allowance money, I think. So I'll take it. And I always spent it on dumb shit. Because I was a kid, of course, right? I spent it on dumb shit. I would buy toys or a snack that I like, whatever. I would spend it frivolously, but Smash Wii U, getting a Wii U in the first place taught me to budget. And I didn't spend any of the money. I saved for, I think, a year at that point. And my parents said, one day I was coming home from school, I think around September or so, and they were like, Jamin, you should go check your room. And there was like a Wii U tucked in the bed. It's a cute little gesture, and I was like, thank you guys so much. And in my head I was like, thank you so much, they did it. I mean, that's what I said out loud, but in my head I was like, I was so close to doing it myself, why'd they have to take it from me? Cute way that I was thinking about it, because the Wii U was $300, and I remember I had, I think, $270, $260. I was a month or two out, and then I was gonna save up for this game, and they're like, no, we're gonna get it for you, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna say no. So I got it, and it was great. Very first thing I did was boot up 8-player Smash, and then the new stage builder, and then online play, and all this stuff, and eventually I found Miiverse. And in Miiverse, I made and this is something that my neighbors and some people in the Manitoba Smash scene can remember, that they remember. I had a huge community that I built called the MFST, the Mii Fighter Striker Team. I loved Mii's for some reason at the time. I don't anymore. But I just thought it was so cool that you could like put yourself into Smash Bros. And I loved that community online for Miiverse. And I made this like group, this community that hadn't really been done before, at least in my knowledge, in a scene of solid players. You know, we were all kids back then, but solid players who came together and played for their love of the game. And to me, it was just like a really special thing. That was the first real social outlet that I had made on my own terms. With the Jehovah's Witness, I got shoehorned into it. People didn't really like me at school. I had some friends, but they weren't the greatest friends, and I definitely had a bully or two. And that was my first time doing it. And when people at school found out about it, they were like, wow, you actually had a whole community that you made by yourself. And it was a really cool thing. But the anomaly about it all, for me, comes from it being from this game. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U is the direct sequel to Brawl. It was the new game for the new console, wherein they needed to make something after. Brawl in the competitive scene was thrown to the wayside by the Melee folks, and they all hated it, and they got on the Brawl players' asses, and the scene was never quite as big as it was in Melee. They were the minority, even though they were the newer game. And when Smash 4 came out, it was totally different. Smash 4 was a huge success. For the first several years, there was so much booming activity, so much going on. It was a huge deal, and I remember being a little kid in 6th or 7th grade, being in awe of Civil War and Trigger Warning, of Zero's performances, of Nairo's performances. I remember watching False's streams back in the day of all people, and I remember finding Alpha Rad and just wanting to be a part of it as badly as I could. I played For Glory for literal thousands of hours. If I were to boot my Wii U up right now, it would probably say that I spent 2,000, 3,000 hours just on For Glory. And I never really stopped it either. I stopped playing the game myself after 2 or 3 years. But I was always watching YouTubers play Smash. The top players, the Nintendos, the Alpha Rads. I was always consuming and watching them, even if I wasn't actively playing the game. Smash was always a part of my lifestyle. Even after I stopped playing the game, it was still in my life, deeply. I moved on to other things. I played some other games and made other communities and whatnot. And then the Switch came out, and in the fervor, I got a Switch and I barely touched it. I played Splatoon, but I knew that there was another Smash game that was going to come out. So I waited and waited, and sure enough, Mario comes out of that pipe, totally differently animated. There's the trailer with like the Inkling stuff, and then the flaming Smash Ball, and everyone on Twitter blowing up the mentions. Who is in the silhouette? All that. But Nintendo didn't design Ultimate to be an incredibly competitive game. They had their balance patches. They had the changes that they would make, and they would have logs, and Sakurai would do his character introductions, and he was obviously a competent designer because he made, with Ultimate, in my opinion, one of the best designed games, like competitive games overall, especially for how insane how many characters there are. Like, it's a feat. There's people who have their debates about like, oh, they're all like, every character is centered around one broken move and yada yada. That's theirs. I don't personally have too much of a problem with it, besides like some characters, but Smash, for all intents and purposes, its roots were meant not to be competitive. The series started and was inspired by Sakurai at an arcade cabinet, whooping some kid's ass in KOF, and he instantly is like, damn, that guy was ass. Why was he, like, what was with that? And then he turns around to the cabinet and he sees like a guy with his girlfriend, and he's like, what have I done? And from there, he wanted to make a fighting game with no health bars, that is casual friendly, that everyone can enjoy. And he did. Smash is probably, besides Mario Kart and like maybe Jackbox nowadays, probably the biggest, best casual game available, I would say. Like for house parties specifically. If you go to a house party, it'll either be Mario Kart or Smash, depending on levels of sweaty. But despite that, a competitive scene did rise, and despite that, Nintendo fought it for years. Sakurai himself said that a maniac timeline was the scariest thing, where there are maniacs who just want to grind the game and grind and grind and grind, and he doesn't want to do that, and he doesn't want that to happen. He said that back in the Melee era, and Nintendo infamously tried to shut down Melee events and Brawl events and so on. If you don't believe me, do your homework. I live in Manitoba, Canada. in and of itself, through its history, it is a bit of an anomaly because it was fought for by Louis Riel, and at the time it was known as the Postcard Province when he first got its freedom. It wasn't meant to be much of anything. And that Métis man, Louis Riel, who was a bit of my hero, he made it such. Myself, I didn't fit in. And more so what I liked, especially when I was in school, when I developed this huge love for Smash Bros, I fit in even less. Kids were bullying me even more for liking video games as much as I did. I would try to sit with people who kind of I thought were my friends in grade 7, so this is water under the bridge, obviously. We were children. But they would scream, yell, and you're like, no, you need to go out and do this, you need to go out and do this. And it was like, I would cry in front of the soccer, whatever. Whole thing. It's not a traumatic experience, we were children. And it became even more so when Ultimate came out, because I found out that all along, surprise, Manitoba did have a competitive scene. And I remember being on vacation in Florida, because we had rich relatives who kind of took us along. Kind of be like, hey, I when I got home, the grind was on. I went to my first tournament, other end of the city. My dad would drive me every Thursdays. It was a whole thing, and I didn't fit into that scene either. But as I grew, competition took more and more of my time as a person. I think a very underrated thing about Smash Bros. That isn't talked about much in the community as a whole is how your career as a player reflects your character a little bit. There was that one Spargo tweet from however long ago at this point. It's fairly recent, but however long ago. And he said, nobody talks about how your play style reflects your personality. How more quiet and chill players have this more calm, not brazy style. How the Mangoes of the world play the way that they do, whatever it is. But I think that's underselling it, because in Smash, it is do or die. If you lose in a tournament set, you're in the loser's bracket, and if you lose again in the loser's bracket, you're out. And that's hard for some people to accept, that you're not the best in the room, wherein most people start and go to these tournaments because they believe they're the best in the whole world. Ask any top player how they first started, they'll probably say that, and I definitely know it was like that for me. I'm not a top player, but that's how it was for me too. And it was a humbling thing. I went 1-2 at my first local, beating someone else who was their first tournament. His name was Zeph. He was a friend for a long time and a rival for a long time. And sorry, I don't have a script, so I'm literally just shooting this off. I don't think anyone's gonna really watch this, but I just want to freestyle it for myself, and just talk about it all, because it's something I've been thinking about. But what I'm getting at here is that to compete, you need to have a form of grace to you to succeed. I'm not saying that the players who succeed the best are morally the best players. That is not the case. And I hope that we as a scene all know that and can take that responsibly. Some players have morals, some don't. But yeah, what it does show is character. To be the best in Smash, you kind of have to be a bit of an anime shonen protag, or you just need to have that resilience. You need to have some form of patience and acceptance, and either a fire in you that consumes everything, or a humility that chills you out to get yourself to the top. And I think of some of the players in my region who reflect that best. There is... So like I said, I live in Manitoba, Canada. You probably haven't heard of it. We are a small, shitty, out-of-the-way province in Canada, central Canada, where our best players retire every other season, and we are super far away and don't travel much. We're more casual of a scene these days, which is actually what inspired me to make this video. But our best players kind of show that. Jams loses and sometimes takes really bad losses, and cares, sure, but he practices and he keeps trying. He doesn't let losses get to him because he's humble and he knows his style and he knows his game plan, and it's a reflection of the consistency he's built in his life. And that's why James is one of the people who I look up to in my life. I don't know if I've ever told him that. James, if you watch this far, then I guess you heard that. I am not that person. Like I keep trying to make the theme of this video, I'm an anomaly. I didn't fit into my social circles. I didn't fit into my religious circle. I don't even fit into... I competitively play one of the biggest party games of all time, and I barely even fit into that scene to begin with. I was a weird, awkward, unsocialized kid who was begging for attention. But in my competitive career, I grew. But what I did do was fit in online, first with Meverse and then with Twitter. I became one of those stupid niche micro celebrities on Smash Twitter, making funny tweets that related to people and just occupying that space, indulging in the drama and in the goals. It was very cringe of a time. But I got big, and people knew me as Six Frame, the guy with the Chester the Spider profile picture. People in my region thought it was lame and kind of made fun of me for it, but it was how it was. It was what it was, I should say. And then, somewhere along the line, I did get better, and I did get better, stronger. No, you know where that was? That was COVID. There was a lockdown which changed my life, and the life of probably all of you as well, wherein I moved into this room downstairs in the basement. I had all day and night to just grind, smash, and improve, and I did. For one of the first times in my life, I sat down and purposefully tried to improve at something. And at this point, I would have been in 10th grade going on 11th. Much more liked now, much more sociable, but still a high school kid with girl problems and ego problems and friend problems and all of this, right? And when I got good and I got better, I started to perform on Wi-Fi. But because of the nature of Smash Wi-Fi, I was still an outcast, because it's like, well, why are you taking Wi-Fi this seriously? For me, it was all that there was. I had to do Wi-Fi tournaments to compete and to still get that validation and to still see myself improve. Because at this point, I had only been competing for like, I guess 2 years, so it mattered to me. And then the lockdown ended. And this is the keynote, is that that season, I got 5th on PR. I was top 5 in Manitoba, which was my goal coming out of COVID. I knew that I could do it. I knew that I was there. Just had to do it. And I did. But in really odd ways. See, for James's cold consistency, and for Devil Joey's calculated hits and understanding neutral and in a way silent killing, and for Squid Ninja's just crazy movement and innovation, what I had was that I hit really, really hard. And it led to me being a very inconsistent player. Closer to the end of the season, I was getting 9ths back to back. I was dropping sets to players who'd never been ranked, but I was still top 5. The reason was because I beat some really good players along the way. Jams had moved to our region from Ontario at the very start of COVID, over COVID, because he got a job there after finishing university. He was a strong legacy player from Ontario that everyone was kind of talking up, and it was like a big deal. And we were seated into each other at pools because people were still underseating me because they didn't take Wi-Fi seriously, that's an older thing, but that's long ago now. And we were the very first set that was played in our pool, and I won 2-0. I handed one of the two perennial top ones in Manitoba his first set loss, being his first loss in Manitoba right from the get-go. And then later on that season, I beat Strikey Guy, who was the guy in our region for as long as he played. So through sheer anomalies and above average performances, I became top 5. That's weird, because rankings are supposed to reward consistency. And I did not have that. I had lows and lows. But my highs were so high that I had earned it over my rival at the time, Devil Joey, who, quite frankly, was much more consistent than me, and looking back, probably should have been, but this way she goes. This kind of went on for a good while with my competitive spirit, where I was inconsistent as hell, the weakest of the top players, but I always just had that upset. It was a similar thing in my first major that I went to, Battle of BC4. I was seated in to fight this Rob player named Machu. I guess I'm just good at that matchup. And he was, at this time, taking huge names. He was a huge up-and-coming player. He'd beaten some of the, other up-and-comings, Jake, the Steve player, Yanni, the Steve player. I guess he was good against Steve. Some others who I forget off the top of my head, but I remember at least those two, and those two ended up being ranked that season. And Machu was, not a favorite to win the whole tournament, but he was definitely a favorite for top 16. And I ended up upsetting him. He fucked on my shit in game 1. I clawed it back. Very luckily, he was dead, but then he pretty much saved me with a sour spot down air in game 2. And then game 3, I hard read one of his rolls by walking into shield and then walking out, catching him with an up smash. I popped off so hard. Even the people who I'd gone with didn't believe that I was going to beat him. It was a whole thing. I popped off really loud. It was great. And then I kept making wins and kept doing good. And it was like, wow, this guy did it. And then I went back to Manitoba and it was more the same. More being worse than James and Josh and Joe and kind of everyone, and just dropping down ranking-wise. And then I suddenly got second at one of the biggest tournaments we ever had, only losing 2 sets to Riot to Strike. There are so many more examples of this, but I'm kind of finding my own growth now, where I might have been that anomaly, where on paper I'm not a good player, but I'm not a consistent player, but I have the big ones. There are so many more examples I could go through, but I'm finding that consistency now. This season, with the exception of the first tournament because I went all random, I have been really in the driver's seat. I got 4th at the biggest tournament that we've had in well over 10 years, only losing to out-of-region players, beating every Manitoban. I won another mildly sized tournament in Brandon, one of the sub-regions, beating Joe. And for the first time in my history, I'm actually positive on all the other top players that I kind of grew along with when I was always behind them. I've found that stability in my life for the first time ever. And it's kind of bittersweet, because now this is the time when Ultimate is at its worst. On average, our monthlies get 10.5 entrants, and last PR season, despite still having like a ranking of 10 players, we only had about 19 eligible people for that PR. So we were ranking over half of the eligible player base. It's kind of a funny thing for me to finally have found that consistency and that stability that I'd always aimed for at what feels, quite frankly, like the end of this, of all of this, of this journey, of the Smash related journey. I'm not gonna quit, and I'm not gonna stop, but I don't know how much longer my Smash scene has intact. So if I can go out and be the number one at the very end, then I guess that's just the story. There's a lot more stuff that I probably could have talked about in this video. To be honest, I just wanted to rant and talk about it all, because today we kind of spent a lot of time infighting with the PR panelists, and I was kind of like the middleman in the middle where I agreed with some things, because I'm also on panel, I agreed with some things and some others, and this whole thing, and just got me thinking about my life through the perspective of Smash. And here I am. I think Smash has really helped me grow as a person and form my character these last however many years. I'm gonna be 23 in less than 2 months, and to be honest, I didn't see myself living past high school with everything, but I'm here, and I'm working for the provincial NDP, representing WA. I'm trying to stay on past the summer. There's one more tournament coming up, not this coming weekend, but the weekend afterwards, that I'm going to be entering, that if I win it, or at least get second, it will hopefully solidify me as number 2 in the province. I would love nothing more than to finally be ranked number 1. It's a goal that I set for myself a very long time ago, and I just hope that this keeps up and that I keep being me, because for all the achievements that I've done in Smash, all the big Ds that I've defeated, and the Machus, and the Ryans, and the Wins, and all the players that I've kind of helped improve in this game, for all of it, it's ultimately just a reflection of myself and my character. Smash, as it is just a lens to view yourself in. And that's why I think, despite finding my people through the scene as I grew, I'm still an anomaly. I'm still an anomaly among them, with my results and with my character and all of it. I'm very good friends with them, but I'm still an anomaly, because that's who I am, and that's what Smash shows. So, thank you for listening, if you made it this far. Enter your local tournaments. Support your scene. Even if you don't always love the game, go for the camaraderie and the friendship. And even if you don't love the camaraderie or the friendship, just know that how people treat you is a reflection of how they treat themselves. And how you treat yourself is how you treat others is a reflection of how you treat yourself as well. There's a character in this game that I know everyone is capable of falling in love with. I know that there's a lot of characters in this game everyone hates, and I respect that, but it's a hell of a feeling when you finally beat those characters and those players and everyone that you've wanted to. And I think it makes it more than worth it, because the person that I am now wouldn't be possible without it. Just keep doing what you love and keep being yourself. Even if it doesn't work out, at least you did it. One life, worth a shot. Thank you.